What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and this week is part 2 of the collection tour I took with Ryu of Blackstone Exotics, where we checked out some of her amazing coach whips, racers, lizard projects, and more. I was absolutely blown away by the animals we saw last week. I promise the ones this week are definitely not going to disappoint.
So this is a very, very special species to me because I grew up in Michigan, and this is a blue racer. She is growing into her blue colors. When she's out in the sunlight, it's easier to see, but it's like she starts like a really dark blue on the dorsal, and then on her stomach it's like a lighter blue. And they're absolutely gorgeous and really, really cool snakes. Highly underrated.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. In some areas they're threatened. Michigan luckily has the most prevalent numbers of blue racers.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is not from around here, but it's another very, very underrated snake. It's one of those animals that comes in and is super, super cheap, which I call quote unquote, which they're not, throwaway animals, because people kind of treat them as such. These are hissing sand snakes, Sammophis sibilans, and they're really probably the weirdest and most intricate racer I've kept. They are also very visual, they're very fast. They have all these strange mannerisms and communicate with each other. Another really interesting fact about these guys is they're one of the very few species of snake that secrete this almost like an oil, and they basically take their head and they polish their scales.
Interesting.
Which is very strange, but nobody knows the true reason. But a lot of people think that it's possibly because of the area they're from. It could be to retain water better. So those guys are super neat, and I highly recommend them. So another, aside from racers, another really special group of lizards for me is African cordylids. This right here is a female Smaug mozambicus. And the males, I didn't want to get out the male right now because he's kind of doing his own thing, hiding under the rocks. But the males have a bright orange underbelly, and this female is quite big compared to the male. She's a big girl. They have live birth, so it's one of those things like the Drakensberg crag lizards that I kept. I thought they were never going to have babies, and every time I thought they were gravid, they weren't. And then one day I look into the cage and there's just a little tiny baby basking on top, and that's so exciting. So I love live birthers like that. They're just so cool. So anyone that knows me knows I have a huge love for Platysaurus as well. This is another South African cordylid species. These are imperators, so these are the largest species of Platysaurus. As you can see, the males are brightly colored. These guys will come in like oranges and yellows. The females in Platysaurus, almost all of the species look exactly like this. Okay. The black and the dorsal yellows. And the babies look just like females too. So it really takes a while until you can figure out the exact sex of these animals. Something interesting with them is, because there's so much competition sometimes in the wild, is there will be lesser males that aren't like alpha males that will disguise themselves in female colors just so they can get by the alpha males and have more access to food and other females.
Wow.
So
that's
really
crazy.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool, especially when you're keeping them in captivity. You're like, I know which one you are. You're not fooling me. This is how I keep them. This cage I kind of just tore apart because grabbing these guys is a real pain. But yeah, I do rock layers. Obviously, you have to keep them super secure, because even though these animals, because they're called flat rock lizards by their common name, even though they can squeeze between these, we don't want any accidents where rocks fall on them. I do nest boxes for these guys, and I like to have a very little hole that they can squeeze through because it feels secure, and I fill it with nice soils and some sphagnum, and I make it a little more damp for these guys, so they really enjoy that. Another one of the species, Platysaurus, that I work with, because I keep, no, 5. I always forget because there's
6?
so many. No, I wish. So this is Broadley. This is quite a famous species because, as you'll see in a photo, the males are bright blue, absolutely beautiful, and they have some touches of orange. It's legitimately the only animal that I've seen sparkle in the sunlight. Like it looks like he's covered in glitter.
Wow.
It's absolutely beautiful. This is how I have them set up. For these guys, I usually keep a more humid side and then a drier side, and they like to get very, very hot as well.
Okay.
So another thing I do, because I only have one male at the time in here, I use a few different things to stimulate breeding. Like, for example, I have a mirror right here, so it looks like there's another male in there, so there's more competition.
Interesting. That's cool.
Another thing is, you know how usually you have all these fake little reptile toys and they don't look like anything? This kind of looks like a male Platysaurus Broadley, so I set it in there sometimes and watch him interact with it. So
That's really cool.
yeah, anything I can do, I will. So I've produced several baby Platysaurus over the years, mostly Imperator. I've had a few generations of them. Right here we have some Broadley babies, the bright blue ones. They're very cute. Keep them very simply, and it works out really well for them. But as you can see, they like to hide under whatever's flat, just like their parents. And I do have 2 of these available right now. You can contact me. We'll obviously put the spaces that you can contact me. But yeah, the babies are very cute. As you can see, they look normal, but I've started to see some coloration on some of them on the bellies, and they're starting to look like I have maybe a couple males in there. But yeah, these guys are super cute. They look like they'd be fragile, super easy to keep. And this right here, it looks like it's a dirty cage, but with a lot of species, I think people keep them overly clean. You can see that they have all of these marks in specific areas. It makes them feel, you know, they have their sense. It feels like they're animals. So I do spot clean, but I do a lot of the times for a couple days I'll leave in sheds, or I'll leave in feces like this, as long as it's not disgusting and harmful to the animal. So here's another highly underrated North American species from Texas itself. This is Gyronotus infernalis, the Texas alligator lizard. So this is a very special female. As you can see, there she is right up top. So I decided to do a little bit of experimentation where I had her hatch some of her own eggs. So I left them in there with her, and I have a video of her taking care of them the entire time, moving them around so they're in the right spot, keeping them at the right temperatures. And now I have 3 little babies that I kept in here with them. There's one of them, they start out super, super tiny. This one has grown a lot. There's no issues with cannibalism, no issues with stress or anything like that. They all eat fine, all get along. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise them up and see if there's any changes at any point in size or age. And then obviously when they're fully grown, I will take them out and I will put a male with her again and see how that goes. And hopefully get more babies. But they're really fantastic. If they weren't sitting so still, you could see that to keep out of sight of predators, sometimes they'll move like really in like slow-mo, and it can be really hard to find them.
All right, everybody, thank you for checking out part 2 of my collection tour with Ryu of Blackstone Exotics. Of course, if you want to follow her, keep up with everything she has going on, all of her links are in the description below. For me, I'm on Instagram at Scrub Shepherd, Stephen Cush on Facebook, Cush Reptile on Morph Market, where I post some of my available animals. And I also host a podcast called Cush's Corner on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, thank you guys for checking out that video, and I'll catch you all back here next week for a new one.